Well, it went from bad to worse with the Eagles officially listing multiple starters out against the Jets. Plus, we got even more of a surprise with starting safety Justin Evans going on IR. So who's lining up next to Reed Blankenship? And Howie Roseman's making calls to the Panthers about Jeremy Chinn on the trade block. Things are heating up, so let's talk about it. But first, let's run it. Let's go. Weekend is here, game day right around the corner, and the Birds have an axe to grind. No, I'm not referencing the back and forth between Jets head coach Robert Saleh and Eagles D tackle Fletcher Cox, although that would be understandable and Saleh's definitely going to regret his choice words. But I'm talking about Philly having an axe in their locker room.
Rick, where'd you get a hand grenade? I don't know.
Okay, it's not a legit weapon, however, they have a pretty cool competition going on. With NJ.com's Chris Franklin reporting the Eagles give out the Stormbreaker accoutrement, better known as Thor's axe, to whoever was the highest graded player and won the most one-on-one battles against offensive linemen in the previous game. I mean, in that case, we can probably just call Jalen Carter Thor at this point. Except apparently a new person's won it each week, with Hassan Reddick being the most recent wielder after his 2-sack performance last Sunday. Of course, most of you may recall the Birds doing this with Thanos' hand last season, until former defensive tackle Javon Hargrave left for San Francisco and took the Infinity Gauntlet with him.
I believe you have my stapler.
Don't worry, we'll remember that when we play the Whiners, but I just love the extra competitiveness and fun the guys have within the team. And the Stormbreaker's definitely going to be up for grabs Sunday, with the Jets being without one of their best offensive linemen in Elijah Vera Tucker and overall 3 of their 5 starters. However, Jets quarterback Zach Wilson says he definitely trusts his O-line, so we'll see if he's right about that. However, taking a look at the injury report further, the Jets are really banged up in the secondary, officially being without starting cornerback DJ Reed, and now All-Pro Sauce Gardner's questionable after not practicing Friday due to an illness. Granted, knowing the competitor Sauces, I fully expect him to be out there. Although we aren't so fortunate with a couple stars being out in the Breadman rookie Jalen Carter, who suffered an ankle injury during Wednesday's practice, and also cornerback Big Play Slay, who's dealing with a knee injury. But it doesn't sound like Philly wants to force anything. Thankfully, at least head coach Nick Sirianni said neither injury is a long-term thing, so expects both to be back relatively soon. I mean, honestly, this isn't such a bad thing. After all, the MetLife turf monster claimed quite a few players in the past years, as well as obviously Aaron Rodgers, so let's have him rest up and get ready for Miami next week. Which again is why I say personally I don't mind it, although I'm not as confident in thinking the Jets are food or zero competition or whatever else you want to call them. Because despite nickel corner Bradley Roby officially being signed to the active roster and up from the practice squad, not exactly a surprise, and thank goodness we've got a more solidified option there. Yet we can't say that about safety, with Roby taking up starting safety Justin Evans' roster spot after the Eagles placed Evans on the IR, meaning the earliest he can come back would be after the bye in Week 11 when we play Kansas City. Now, of course, y'all know how I feel about rookie Sidney Brown, and I think in the short term it at least gives him a time to prove himself, although he's still technically questionable to play Sunday with a hamstring injury despite telling John McMullen he'll play, meaning our best option at this point is to roll with Terrell Edmonds and possibly a call-up from the practice squad in Tristan McCullum. Okay, we're not that desperate. Although I agree with Tom, who said if Justin Evans and Sidney Brown were fully healthy all year, I'm not so sure how he would make a move, but they haven't been, so there's a real tangible need that isn't up for debate. Need a body. Yes, we do, but not just anybody. As I've stated a couple times, Panthers safety Jeremy Chinn is one guy I'd love to have, and it appears that could become a reality with multiple sources reporting that the Eagles will be reaching out to Carolina to inquire about the 25-year-old safety. Okay, that's kind of a no-brainer at this point, especially with Albert Breer confirming Jeremy Chinn is now on the trade block and Pro Football Rumors writing Chinn is in the final year of his rookie contract and he would make for a logical rental candidate on a team with the right scheme to utilize his skill set. The former Defensive Rookie of the Year runner-up eclipsed 100 tackles in each of his last 2 seasons, and he remained a full-time starter last year, one in which he missed significant time due to a hamstring injury. Chinn was one of a select few players essentially deemed off-limits ahead of the 2022 deadline, but his playing time has dropped considerably this year in new defensive coordinator Ajiro Evero's 3-4 scheme. A fresh start may be beneficial to team and player. Yeah, not even really a question on that one, considering the fact that Chinn through his first 3 seasons had never played fewer than 91% of defensive snaps. However, this season he's down to just 55% defensive snaps, and he has no clue why that is.
I'm not sure. It's, really not in my control, but, the things I can control are, how I show up in practice every single day and, continue to get better. I'm not 100%, sure what their mindset is on that, but like I said, I'm going to continue to control what I can control, and, I believe everything will work out as it's supposed to.
Yep, they will work out because you, sir, are about to become a Philadelphia Eagle, or at least I hope so. Because come on, this is the dude that GM Howie Roseman was about to go with if it hadn't been Jalen Hurts. Yet it appears we could be coming full circle with Thomas Peterson saying all the fuss about Jalen Hurts versus Jeremy Chinn draft picks in the 2020 draft, and the Eagles might end up with both of them after all. Honestly, it doesn't seem all that unrealistic, plus Howie obviously had him graded really high if he was about to pull the trigger back then, but the question is, how much would you have to give up? Well, Outside the Birds does have an interesting proposition with the Panthers having a running back problem, as Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard have been both underwhelming. So wondering if Deuce Staley would like to reunite with Boston Scott since he's hardly being used by the Eagles right now. What about a 3rd or 4th round pick and Scott for Jeremy Chinn? I don't know, man. I love the Giant Killer, although yeah, we're not really giving him that many touches, but I'm not even sure you'd have to give up that much. After all, like we've been talking about, it's not like Chinn's being used often, plus he's a free agent at the end of the year. So I feel like even a 5th is realistic, but curious what y'all think. How much would you be willing to give up for Chinn? Personally, I think you wouldn't have to give up anything more than a 4th. That would probably be the max for me. But going back to the injury report, we also got the surprise from Ian Rappaport that Quez Watkins is dealing with a hamstring injury that is still being evaluated and is officially out versus the Jets, yet unsure about Fast Batman's long-term prospects. Except, are we really unsure? After all, this dude continues to have hamstring problems, so it feels like this could be a multiple-week thing. And while I never wish injuries on anyone, it could be a blessing in disguise to allow for a spot for Nakobe Dean to be reactivated. Since at the time of this recording, there still hasn't been an official designation for Nakobe to play Sunday. However, I'd expect we see something really soon.
He worked so hard when he was gone, just to stay around everything and be around everything, and really made a push last week. When I asked him if he wanted to be at that game last week, he emphatically said yes. I want to be there. And so mentally, I didn't feel like there was a big change of anything, because he had worked so hard while he was gone. But it was just the progression of the week, getting into individual periods, getting into team periods, and making sure that he was ready to go. And he's looking like he's going to be there, and we're excited about that as a football team.
Okay, it probably goes without saying since the former 3rd rounder still needs to be added back to the roster, but Sirianni wouldn't commit to a starter at linebacker yet. Dean was, however, at least a full participant along with Fletcher Cox, Rashad Penny, and Jack Stoll. And I wouldn't overlook the benefit of Stoll since he's been a huge contributor in the running game, which I expect to be firing on all cylinders. With Bleeding Green Nation's Joseph Santoliquito pointing out that the Jets' defense overall has kept them in games overall ranked number 14 against the pass in the NFL, giving up 206.4 yards a game. And more importantly, they're number 3 overall in red zone defense, allowing opposing teams touchdowns at 31% behind only Baltimore and Tampa Bay. So the best way to attack the Jets defense appears to be running at them, since the Jets are ranked number 29 in the NFL overall against the run, giving up an average of 146.2 yards a game and an average of 166.7 over the last 3 games. Okay, first off, let's hope Brian Johnson and the offense are a lot more efficient in the red zone. After all, it is one thing Jason Kelce expects we'll see improvement on.
We know we need to start getting in the end zone. We're very happy with the way the offense has performed. I don't think anybody wants to take away from that. I mean, we're putting up points, and we're moving the ball, and time of possession is through the roof. We're doing a lot of great things. The one area that we really have to improve on is the red zone, and we're very aware of it. We've been preaching it for the last couple of weeks, and all we can do is just keep working on it, and eventually it's going to start clicking.
Look, if you can do it against the number 3 red zone defense, that'd be a huge confidence boost. Yet it's obviously not a stretch to say the running game will play a big factor, but should be rock solid this week. Unlike my weekly NFL picks where we went 1-2 last week. But this week, I've got a guaranteed winner for you, thanks to my partnership with BetMGM, where your first entry when you sign up via the link in the description is an automatic winner. Even if your entry doesn't hit, BetMGM will pay you back up to $1,500 in bonus bets. I mean, seriously, what do you have to lose? So this week, I'm going to go with Tampa Bay at home getting 3 points versus Detroit, and I'll also take the Jags laying 4 at home against Indianapolis. Okay, the final pick I'll roll with is the Birds game. Give me the under 40.5. There you go. Best of luck to anyone telling. Also, another reminder for you about the live stream we'll be having tomorrow during the game with play-by-play, analysis, reactions, and just a fun watch party. Oh yeah, and we're also going to be giving away this pretty sweet Eagles Salute to Service hoodie at the end of the 3rd quarter, so feel free to swing by. All right, let's hear those score predictions in the comments. I'm going to go with Philly 23-17. Go Birds. This has been the Philly Special.